Deborah Korn, we are live on the internet. The intergalactic internet is ablaze through the
Yay.
convergence of our two worlds. I'm you are the OG of we all look up to Deborah Korn as the one
Oh,
who
stop.
blazed the trail before us.
Thank you,
And it's
sir.
true though, Deborah, you were the first person that I ever saw that I was like, she's in and around printing and packaging, and I'm like, and she's doing it, and she's built a community, and you continue to cultivate the community. And I think it's wonderful. So I am delighted to be here. We're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube, and if you're able to watch this, I know it's whatever time it is, 11 o'clock Central Time. So, if you can't jump on live, that's great. If you're watching this on replay, that's awesome too. We'll keep monitoring the comments and jump in. So, as we're going through the interview, this will air on the podcast at some point in time. But if you're going through the interview and you hear a question, then jump in and you can participate in the interview as well. Please, we welcome it. So I'm joined here by Deborah Korn. And Deborah, I would love for you to do your best introduction, the best introduction you've ever done for a podcast. Let's just knock it out
Okay.
right now.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for your kind words. My cheeks hurt from smiling, that authentic smile that you brought to my face. As you mentioned, I am Deborah Korn. I'm the self-proclaimed intergalactic ambassador to the Printiverse. I run a website called Print Media Center where I provide inspiration and resources to print and marketing professionals. And I do that through an array of community lifting initiatives, events, event coverage, social media things, videos, podcasts. I have a new TV channel for print called Project Peacock TV. And next year, my major focus is going to be an initiative I'm calling Print Life, which is all about workforce development and showing people all the amazing career opportunities there are in print and how cool print really is. It needs a little bit of a rebranding, and I've waited long enough, and now I'm like, fine, I'm going to do it myself. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I love it. I love how it's great when you meet a kindred spirit who just says, you know what, agendas aside, outcomes aside, let's serve, let's be a benefit, and then we'll trust that the outcomes are whatever it is that they need to be. But we're gonna do this, and we're gonna be valuable to the community, valuable to the industry. And what I have found is that does become valuable to me in some ways, but it only becomes that flywheel if I continue to give, and continue to serve. And I've loved watching you, and being able to call you a friend. And by the way, I'm here in the Myers printing facility in lovely Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I was telling people, hey, I'm going to have the intergalactic ambassador of the Printerverse, and then freaking Yoda overheard, and Yoda was like, in there I must be. And I'm like, whoa, Yoda just came to life, appeared here right behind me wearing a Myers branded visor. And it was weird, but it happened. And so if Yoda starts to move around, whatever
That would be
happens,
pretty
like
cool.
it's,
It's actually very poignant too because my like mantra has always been uh, do or do not. There is no try. Like that was my motto in the advertising agency, and I bring it on now. And just to comment on something you said before, which I think is really important because it's not like I'm doing anything that other people aren't doing. Everyone's trying to attract people to print. Everyone's trying to do something for women in print. The difference is that those other entities have a vested interest in it that is more self-serving in a way. Sometimes it's just, look, we ticked a box, we've done these missions. What were the results? We did these missions. That was the result. And but to your very excellent point, when it's the right mission and the right things are happening, support comes. but I
Mm.
do spend a lot of time supporting these things, myself until I get some traction on it. And print life will most likely be that way too. But I've made a lot of lead. I've done a lot of lead work by presenting to the schools, and now I'm going to do that next year too. So hopefully it will get more traction. But I appreciate that you recognize the effort, and thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. It's and to your point, it is so critical because everybody assumes this is what drives me crazy. Everyone assumes that like I have some kind of like agenda. And I understand where that distrust comes from, right? Because we're so used to like, okay, well what's the reason behind this? And it's very rare, I think, to meet and interact with people who say, I trust that whatever is going to happen, if I am well intentioned, is going to happen, and that the right people are going to come along. Now, I'm not saying you just sit back and passively,
Mm.
you're trying to proactively find partners, like, but at the end of the day, if my goal is to serve and be of use and uplift and generate kindness and empathy and love in the world and direct that towards this industry that we love so much, and to illuminate that, and to I'd say on my LinkedIn, like, evangelize it, which means to be like a bringer
Yeah,
of good
of
news.
course.
It's like, if
Yeah.
I'm going to do that, then the right types of people are going to come along on that journey and on that ride with me. But that's not my goal. Is not to get really super wealthy, or to to be a billionaire, whatever it is. Like, my goal is legitimately like, I do just want to serve. I just want to be useful. And I have found that from you to also be super refreshing. And and to your point, there are a lot of people who are doing it, but it's a means to an end. The end is something else other than just the good that comes from it. um, and that is now fleshed out because of our access to information. That gets fleshed out very quickly,
Yeah.
and I think, which is why people like yourself have really risen to the top. Rebecca, by the way, Rebecca, I think it's Ivans. I'm sorry if I said your name um, incorrectly. Ivans or Ivans, says, "OMG, I love Deborah and girls who print."
Oh, yay.
I
Thank you,
believe
Rebecca.
that's the heart hand
Yes, it
symbol. Is that?
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So thanks for chiming in, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Yay.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited to hear about print life, and see about that going into next year. So I'm curious, if we look back, though, it's November, right? We're going to look back on 2022, and it's not over, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What what has your life been like this year? I see you on planes more. I see you, out and about more. It looks like we nailed Ivan's. We were correct the first time, so
Yeah.
thanks for letting us know. I see you out and about more. So, what's 2022 been like in the printerverse as the intergalactic ambassador?
2022 has really been about getting back in the game, and that game has changed. And there is a lot of pulling people along with that concept, which has been very tiresome this year.
Mm,
There are so many entities out there. And what I mean by entities, I work with, I kind of think of my model a little bit as a Robin Hood model. Like, I'll work with the corporations and the bigger companies to help them on their missions. And then from that, I can do community based initiatives. But so many of these marketing plans and engagements that they want to have with the audience are just, let's take 2019 and move it into 2022 and go everybody. And it's like, hold on a second, you don't even know where half your audience is anymore, or if any of them have these problems anymore, or where they are on their journey of coming back to life after 2 years of some duress, and of course supply chain issues and all that. So this year has really been about not thinking I'm a crazy person, and a lot of the times, like, nope, I'm just gonna not do it because it's not going to. I love to work with companies, but there's some things I just won't participate in anymore because they're gonna judge me on the results instead of looking at the fact that they haven't modified their outbound communications in a way that isn't just in some giant corporate messaging cycle, and it hasn't just like stopped and said, hold on, let's regroup and really try to understand our audience again. So
Mm.
it's been a trying year in that. However, I will say this: a lot of those people have reset at this point now after a year of things not going so great in certain areas, and I really do believe that next year will be much better for everybody, more targeted communications and things of that nature.
I saw an interesting note to that end, which was that people are starting to say, instead of "I work at such and such company," it's "I'm working with such and such person." And this idea for corporations to recognize, like, there has been a shift in outbound communication. What worked in 2019 and in 2018 is, it's not like because we are emerging from the pandemic that all of a sudden you just revert back to that. Like, everything changed when it comes to that. I mean, not everything. I don't want to be an alarmist, but I'm saying a lot shifted during that time.
Well, marketing certainly
Marketing did.
shifted. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
advertising, communication certainly shifted, which is why it's so important to us to discuss these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I saw it. So I'll give an example. When I was at Pack Expo and when I was at Label Expo, I myself and Corey Connors, when we were at Pack Expo, we were just going around making short little TikTok videos, and these companies who had spent tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to go exhibit, which I'm not saying is wrong, right? Like, there is a lot of value in these trade shows,
Hmm.
but you know Corey especially would go make a video, go make a TikTok of this. There was one where there's like a plastic slide going through a corrugated box to help with work in progress, and that thing is like 400,000 views. And it's like the people there did had not quite thought through it, the impact that they can have with, they've got all this cool equipment there. It's like, just, you got a cell phone,
Yeah.
like, this isn't difficult. It's just that the corporate communication in our industry specifically has not caught up to that. And I don't know, I'm not sure, and we'll talk about the future, but it's like, when is that going to happen? I still haven't seen a whole lot of, like, hey, we're going to invest. This is a corporation, other than like, we're going to invest in people like Deborah, people like Corey, and they already have the platform. So let's just go partner with them, which is a
Right.
great strategy. But
Exactly. And that used to be the strategy. And when the pandemic first hit, uh, or at least, the companies I work with, they're like, oh, okay, we'll just do everything online. And I was like, okay, well, I hope that works out for you, considering you haven't spoken to anybody ever online. And now you think you're just going to go out there and start speaking, and everyone's just going to be like, oh, they're talking, let's run over there, when they don't even know you exist. Um, and to your point, corporations like that, they don't deal in the now, they deal in the plan of what that now is. Like, at 4 o'clock on this day we send out this tweet, and it's literally like that. So what I used to do a lot of times at events when I work with companies is, I was there at the moment person.
mm,
This is who's in the booth. This is what's going on. This is the session taking place. This is who I just spoke to. This is what. So it is difficult for them to operate in that way because of all the layers of bureaucracy and stuff. But yes, my favorite thing at any of those packaging shows or label shows is to watch the automation. And I have made a million 30-second videos of, and I call it my moment of zen, whatever it is. At one time there was tea going into a tea bag, and just a little at Interpack in Germany, they had a whole hall full of chocolate making, and I was just like, maybe here's a moment of zen. This guy's making chocolate and putting it into a package, and those videos go, print industry viral
Right,
in
right.
2 minutes because people are just like, I haven't seen that. I can relate to that. It's a so yes, I agree with you 100%. Little bursts of engagement is where it's at, and then get people in your ecosystem and then communicate with them in a longer tail way, but it has to be about what they care about, not what you care about to tell them, or you're going to lose them.
Amen. Amen. I love that. My father, I've said this before on a couple different podcasts, but when I first got into sales, he said, never fall in love with your company's products or solutions. Fall in love with your customers and prospects' problems. Like nobody cares about. Very few people care about, is this digital? Is this offset? Is this, there are people who do, but for the most part, it's like, I need this printed thing to show up on this day and function this way. Can you, like, most people just want us to be, I call it like boring printers, right? Like that's really what they want. And it's the
It's
same
true.
thing with marketing, right? It's like, meet people where they're at, meet customers where they're at, serve their needs. So as you are looking into your intergalactic crystal ball for 2023, obviously we've talked about print life, and that is serving, to your point, it is serving the industry and what they need. Labor and attracting young people to the industry is something that is common across every segment. And the answer isn't, well, just go pay them more, because that's not one, it's not sustainable with inflation, because then you just end up passing price increases, and then the same people that you're paying more end up having to pay more for their own goods, and it becomes this cycle of
Yeah.
economic sadness. So recruiting them to, like, I'll give you an example. I went to Paul Hudson, to Hudson Printing in
Salt Lake
Salt Lake.
City.
Yeah. And when Lando was there and they were selling their press, and I was like, if I were young, I'd be like, this is freaking
It
awesome.
looks
Like,
like
I
it.
get,
I have it in my print life presentation. I'm like, how is this an antiquated technology? It's a spaceship. They call the where the operator stands a cockpit. It's a giant iPad, and,
yeah,
and they think it's the coolest thing ever.
it's amazing. And
But
so,
yeah,
you
but
know,
I just want to say, to your point, it goes back further than that. It's not about even like, can we or do we have an entry level salary that's comparable to somebody who might work in the electronic slash digital medium. We do not. But the problem is that they walk past a print shop and they're like, oh, those poor people working in there, like they can't ever see themselves as being part of it. And it's because of the way that most people think of about print, and especially the younger people. How I describe it is that they've all seen the movie where there's an old guy in overalls covered in ink going, stop the presses, right? You can picture seeing a movie. So that, and it's a giant newspaper press, and it's like there's smoke all over the place, and they're just like, no to all of that, if they even look up from their phone to see what's going on. So it's about making everybody who walks past the print shop say, I wish I could work in there. And we have that stuff, and
yeah,
we have those people, but we, back to the vested interest part about it, if everybody's talking about it and showing it compartmentalized, no one ever gets the big picture of everything that everybody does. And that's what print life is about. I don't care what segment of the industry you're in. If it's cool, we're going to talk about it.
hmm,
So that's kind of where the lines have to disappear, and we all really need to come together on this.
I love it. And make sure, and if you're not connected to Spark Packaging, they're a new sponsor of my podcast.
Okay.
They're doing some really awesome stuff around just that exact topic of attracting young people. It's
Excellent.
labor They got some really cool stuff.
Cool.
So kind of talking about the future and speaking of like reaching young people, you and I have had a lot of incredible offline conversations. And even when I was on your podcast, we got to talk about the importance of not of creating an environment inside of your facility that is accepting of people, that is attractive to people. It's a big initiative here at Myers. We have a whole DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging that's happening
Ooh,
here.
belonging.
Yeah, and the idea is like we want to create a place where everybody feels welcome and everyone can bring their whole self to work. And um, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this. And as we sit here recording this live on November 3rd, I thought, what a great time to bring some people into that kind of inner curtain of what we talk about often, which is, the impact that we can have as individuals and as an industry on something that's so important like elections. So we have election day in what is it, 5 days, November
Yep.
8th. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of an opportunity to bring your whole self to this interview. I'm sure you get asked a lot about print. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's important for us to share about the things that we care about. And certainly I have a lot of very strong beliefs about participation in democracy and how it impacts not just me as a person, but it impacts my wife, it impacts my sons, it impacts my daughters, it impacts our industry. There are EPR laws that are going into effect. What does that mean? What does it mean from bans on single-use plastics? Like, there's a lot of very practical reasons to vote in as a member of the printing and packaging industry, but also just as an American, right? And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to share maybe some of your how did I say, just the importance of people, to encourage them to go out and vote.
Okay.
It's a
Well,
loaded question that
and
we're
it
asking here at
should
the end.
not be. It should
Yeah.
not be a loaded question. This should not be something that I'm nervous to talk about. But and it, nervous is not the right word, but being forthright about it can be very polarizing as well. And I don't see myself as a polarizing figure in the printing industry. However, that does not mean that I don't voice my opinion in different ways. So I appreciate the question, and I'm going to answer it with from a big and bold place, which was the theme of my last Girls Who Print
Oh, I love it. By the way,
event.
Rebecca said that she is college friends with Emily Simon.
Oh yeah, she won the Rising Star Award at Girls Who Print this year.
Oh, awesome.
So why people should vote? Women's rights, civil rights, keeping democracy, returning to a common baseline truth based in reality, climate change, social security, mass shootings, and assault weapons in the hands of teenagers. I could literally go on, but ultimately we need to return to decency, common decency, not left decency, not right decency, but decency we can all agree about. And we don't have to agree on topics, but we have to agree that violence is not the way to resolve it, that burning and banning books is not the way to resolve it, rewriting our history is not the way to resolve it. On a personal note, I'm Jewish, and I can tell you that anti Semitism isn't new, but it's certainly on the rise, and that should be concerning to everybody. That's where it starts. It doesn't stop there. Read your history. Jews are a very easy target. There's only 14 million of us left on this planet. We're very easy to target. And overall, I just feel these last 6, 8 years, we have been going backwards, and we need to get back to moving forward, having progression, welcoming everybody into the American experiment, and making the world better than we left it. So ultimately, elections have consequences. That's
Yep.
why everybody should vote.
Agreed. Agreed. And I could not have said it better because you bring such passion to everything that you do. And obviously, you listed off a ton of hyper important things that there are books and podcasts and articles that are all written about all those things, and we're not going to get into each specific each
Right,
specific topic,
totally.
but they're all critically important. um, it's important for us to participate in democracy, and so I want to encourage anyone who's listening to this live, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, if you're watching this on YouTube, to please make your voice heard and go out and vote on the 8th. Deborah, I want my last question is this. I've got it strolling here on the bottom that people can go to projectpeacock.tv. They can connect up with you. What are some other ways for if someone is not connected to you? How can they connect up? How can they talk with you and participate in all the great stuff that you have going on?
Well, my main site is printmediacenter.com. And from there, you can find podcasts from the Printiverse, Project Peacock TV, Girls Who Print, a woman and minority owned vendor list under Elevate Print, which, by the way, occupies the #1 search result in Google at this point, which makes me so happy. It's actually how we came together to begin with. As I mentioned, Print Life is coming up. When you're on the site, register for the sign up for the monthly newsletter. On LinkedIn, I run the Print Production Professionals group. There's over 120,000 members. It's the #1 printing group on LinkedIn. Also run the the woman only Girls Who Print group, which has 9,300 global members. And Girls Who Print also has a free mentorship program that we offer, run by Kelly Malazzi. I just posted the replays from our event, as I mentioned. That's at girlswhoprint.net. But if you go to printmediacenter.com or just connect with me on LinkedIn, you can navigate to everything I do.
I love it. I love talking with someone who's like, I thought I did a lot. and,
I
and then I
am a
get to connect up with you.
multitasking. I do have a multitasking problem. I really do.
No, I love it. I mean, you nailed it when you said at the very beginning we were talking about Yoda, do or do not, and you just strike me as a person who's just like, well, let's just go do it. And then if it fails, it fails. Then we're going to go do something else, right? And I love that about you. I love all of your initiatives. I'm a giant fan and participant in what you got going on. So, Deborah, thank you so much, everybody. I think even I just grabbed the projectpeacock.tv and put it down there because I saw there was a link to
Yeah, no,
Print Media Center on there. So
yeah,
you
it's
can
perfect.
you can there's various ways to if you can't find Deborah on the internet, then
There's a
that's a
problem.
you problem.
It
I don't
is.
I don't know how else to sell you.
No, it's funny because I occupy a lot of pages on Google before you get to Deborah Korn's psychic nurse, who I've got to meet at some point. She shows up next after me.
We'll have her on an
Yes.
episode. It'll be
Wait, she knows we're talking about her.
I'll
Something
get
tells
we'll
me.
get Deborah Corn psychic nurse and Adam Peake Scottish rugby player.
There we
And
go.
the four of us will have a conversation. That would be fantastic. It
Too
would be like
funny.
Jet Li and the One, and then
Yes, yes,
the
yes,
world will
yes.
explode.
I've seen that movie.
As have I. Deborah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everyone go check out Print Media Center or Project Peacock or just connect up with Deborah and she'll steer you in the right direction. Thanks so much, Deborah. I appreciate it.
Print long and prosper, everybody.